Hi, welcome to Actual Spinster. My name is Anna Marie. Before I get into the rest of the video, I just want to say there's a GoFundMe link in my description box, which is for a GoFundMe for Ala and her family whilst they're stuck in Gaza, and if you could check that out, I would be really grateful. Today's video is a little TBR kind of overview plan with some possibilities about some reading I want to do in 2025, which is of the author Henry James. He comes up quite a lot in terms of the era of time that well, maybe it's more that like he's part of the literary world around the period of time that I kind of cover, at least at the beginning of it, so from the like 1880s into the 20th century, the early 20th century. And I've kind of been thinking that I probably should read him for a while because his voice is very strong in lots of ways. He's also like quite integral, I guess, to like realism as a genre in some ways, and you know, like the Victorian novel too, just in general. And although like I'm not focusing on novels, I obviously like to get this kind of context and background and like richness. So I thought I would do like a little project where I do read some of Henry James's work. I've gone through and I've picked some, and I kind of, I thought I would talk through the ones that are in the kind of like focus group and then also some of the ones that are like maybe a bit more external to that and much less priority, less sort of integral to what I'm trying to kind of get a grasp of, which is just basically sort of like a bisection of his work to kind of actually see. I haven't read any of his work, to see what he's doing and to see how he's contributing to the development of the novel, the development of realism, and just the representation of politics too, and just like literary culture in the 1880s, 1890s, 1900s. I hope that makes sense. The one book that I have that is, I would say, like the main kind of focal point of this is The Portrait of a Lady. This is in the core 4 that I have picked as, the focal group. I made like a little diagram, so I will put it here so you can have a look at it. Because I'm not like especially excited about reading Henry James, although at this point I am kind of interested, even if I don't think I'm gonna especially enjoy or like what he's saying, even if maybe I enjoy the form that he is writing in. I decided to pick things that like I could really feel like an interest in for various reasons. So I'll kind of try to go through why. I'm not going to really be talking at all about plot or anything like this in this video, so I think after Portrait of a Lady, and perhaps it does interest me more, it's just Portrait of a Lady was like in the English department and I could squirrel it away for this project, but is The Princess Casamassima, which I read like a critical article about it like a long time ago, or like it referenced it, because I know it's about like anarchism in the fin de siècle, Victorian London. I think it's set in London, and I know that there's like a bookkeeper and he's an anarchist, and it's also based off of what Conrad would turn The Secret Agent into. Is that correct? Or am I mixing them up? No, I think in the same article that was talking about The Secret Agent, it also talked about this book as showing like an exploration of like what anarchists were doing at the time. It obviously is not from the perspective that like anarchism is good. It's written by Henry James, who was not an anarchist, but I am really interested in it because of that. Some of his work is obviously quite short and some of it is much longer. I think The Princess Casamassima is like 500 words. I definitely did not say that right. The Princess Casamassima. And obviously Portrait of a Lady is 600 pages, 620 pages or something. But one book that is quite short is called The Europeans, and this one I've put on the list because in 2024 I watched the film Drive Away Dolls, and they reference the Europeans in it a lot, and they even show like the final page of it, but I didn't look because I was specifically not wanting to be spoiled, because I was like, oh, this is a good book to check out, and then maybe I can rewatch the Drive Away Dolls and see how close it was. The film like was interesting. I kind of feel like it wanted to be something that it wasn't, but I overall did enjoy it and I think it was funny. Also, it sort of was surprising how gay it was, and like considering who made it. But and like the end title sequence says something like Henry James's Drive Away Dolls, and then the like bit that's on dolls falls away and it says Dykes, but clearly they couldn't get like that title okayed or whatever, but like that's what they wanted to call it, I imagine. So yeah, I'm just interested in what's going on there, like why they're referencing the Europeans, like what's that the crossover between Drive Away Dykes is, and I thought this would be like a fun way to kind of, yeah, check that out. And then the final one in the focal group 4 is the Bostonians. I actually, if I'm trying to remember like why I put this on my like radar of like interest, I can't quite remember, but I do feel like it has something to do with Louisa May Alcott, spinsterhood, or Little Women. I don't know if that's actually accurate like at all, but I'm gonna keep it there, and I really like this cover, like the painting used, so that's why it's there. Yeah, and I thought that 4 would be like a kind of a good grouping to focus on, you know, like it's not too large number, and I think it's enough to give like a sense, so if I just read those, that's cool. In terms of the outer circle, there's, I guess, technically 5, but I have put one book, or like one bind up of 2 novellas basically in there. So I guess we'll start with that, because one of them is The Turn of the Screw, and I have actually read that novel already, but a long time ago, and I don't remember that I thought it was particularly good. I don't think I thought it was terrible or anything, but I just didn't find it maybe as effective as I was expecting it to be or something like that. But I will say that I would be interested in rereading it, because you know, you can have such a different experience on the reread, and especially, you know, like for example, when I first read Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, I'm not sure that I read all of it, but when I read the first beginning of Rebecca, I found it really boring, which is sort of wild to say, but then when I picked it up and read it like in the past few years, as opposed to when I was like 15 or something, I like thought it was obviously like excellent, and really good, and like I couldn't find it boring, like I don't know what that's about. So I think, you know, giving it a second chance would be interesting, and obviously it's a very famous piece of work by Henry James. And the other one in that bind up is Daisy Miller, and for this, the reason it's on the list is kind of because there's like a Gilmore Girls episode that's called like Goodbye Daisy Miller or something, and they reference it in that, and I was like, well, it could be cute to know what's going on there. I'm not sure if all 3 of the others, but definitely 2 of them are kind of there, because I'm doing a project where I'm trying to read a book from every single year, from 1800 to 1999 or 2000, and I've been doing it for a really long time, like it's a long-term project, and I'm not sure how much I care about like the 1800, but I guess I probably care from like 1837 to 1999, and one of the decades that I have almost completed is 1900, and I actually think one of these books is from a year that now I no longer need it for, which was 1902, because I realised 5 Children and It is from that, and I just read that recently, so I put that in, and I think that's The Wings of the Dove, so that's why that's on this list. And then the other year is 1903, and that is the year that The Golden Bowl was published, so that's also on this list for that reason. Yeah, those 2, like, I can't really remember if I actually know what they're about. Whether or not I do, clearly that it wasn't like a particularly strong like indicator as to why I would include it. I just thought, if I am going to do this project, then maybe I can try and like cross off a couple things at once with it. And obviously, if I don't find these interesting, like I will not keep reading them. I guess that's kind of true for like the other stuff too, although perhaps with The Princess Casamassima, like if I didn't find it interesting, I still would keep reading, because I do just want to know what's going on there, like what he's saying. And then the final one in the outer group is The Ambassadors, which I think is set in Paris, which I suppose is why I like put it on this list. Again, I think it's also because it maybe does engage a bit with politics, kind of directly, but I also can't really remember. So this is such a great video and so interesting, I'm sure. A lot of these are based off of like popular cultural references to Henry James, things that I need for various projects I'm doing, or my own interest in the representation of left-wing politics in novels, and in fiction generally too. So yeah, I guess we can kind of fit them all into those areas. I guess except for maybe like The Turn of the Screw, because that's just like a reread potentially, but you know, it's not like super high priority to get to. I don't think there's anything else more to say. Like, I wouldn't say I know very much about Henry James, but I don't really care that much about his biography. You know, I mean, let's see how this project goes, and perhaps I will, you know, fall in love with Henry James, and I'll have to take back all of the like begrudging and all the reluctant things that they've said about reading his work and how much I haven't really wanted to, but you know, that would be kind of fun. I would enjoy that if I get to like totally change my perspective. That's what reading is often about, isn't it? Or like what actually reading stuff is about when you've read stuff around it or made your own assumptions. Another thing that will be useful is if I can find audiobooks, and that also might impact what I'm reading of his work. I don't think there is an audiobook for Princess Casamassima, but there definitely are audiobooks for like The Wings of the Dove and The Golden Bowl, I think, and also A Portrait of a Lady, of course. I'm not sure about his shorter fiction, especially The Europeans. I don't think there is an audiobook for that. I know there's a Turn of the Screw audio, and I imagine there's a Daisy Miller one too, but I don't know, I haven't looked. And I feel like The Ambassadors probably doesn't have an audiobook, but we'll see. Obviously that, yeah, will potentially impact, considering how sometimes I've really struggled to read physically, and reading via audio helps me out. Yeah, I think that is finally everything I had to say. Let me know if you have any plans for 2025, I guess. Let me know what you think about my very green fringe. It's like a bit too green right now for me, or like it's a green that I don't especially, I mean like it's fine, but like it's not quite what I wanted. But I think in a few washes it will be the green I want, so that's okay. I'm also just glad it actually worked. I think that's everything I had to say. I hope the light hasn't been terrible, and I will talk to you when I next talk to you. Bye!